my fellow readers. My name is Greg, and this is Ghost Readers in the Sky, channel where I primarily look at the literature and history of the American West, but then I gallop off into whatever direction I want to. Today I'm going to be doing what is usually called the newbie BookTube tag, BookTube Newbie tag. Although when I went to look for the questions for the tag, it looks like there are a lot of different variations. This tag has been around for a long time, and it has changed, modified, morphed, transmogrified. And so I just kind of came up with my own set of prompts based on things that I found across the internet. So let's call this the BookTube Newbie Conversation with Greg. First question, why did I start this channel? I came up with the name. I mean, Ghost Readers in the Sky. What a great pun. What a great name. And then once I had the name, well, then I had to get the channel started because I didn't want somebody else to steal that from me. So it's a combination of a great pun, some impatience, and hubris. The second question, what are some unique things that you bring to BookTube? I am fond of saying that everybody has unique experiences. We all come from different places. We all come from different backgrounds. We all bring with us a whole different set of life experiences. And that impacts how we read books, what kinds of books we like to read, what we enjoy about reading, what we don't enjoy, the books and the authors that we like, the books and the authors we don't like. And so I have a perspective that only comes from me. And it may be similar to many of you who are watching this channel now. And it may be completely different. But it certainly is unique because it's me. And that's what you, as booktubers, those of you who are booktubers, that's what you bring to your channels as well. It's good to hear other voices. It's good to hear other perspectives. And it gives you something to think about. It gives me something to think about. What challenges does BookTube bring? A lot of it for me is the technology. I had never done serious video. I'd never made serious videos. I'd never done any serious video editing. I don't have a lot of the I don't have any of the fancy equipment. I have some basic equipment like an iPhone and the iMovie software. But I'm just learning how to edit, how to do things, and then trying to figure out if I'm going to invest in more fancier equipment. I may not. I don't know. But I think that the technology of how to film, how to edit, how to be more prepared for videos, and how to put it all together in a package that people find enjoyable, entertaining, thought-provoking, laugh out loud funny. Whatever it is, that's the challenge. That's the challenge. When did you start reading? I don't remember a time when I didn't read, when I couldn't read. I know I was not born reading. I was not born with language skills. So I obviously learned to read somewhere, but I just don't. I don't have a point where I couldn't read and then I could. Which is different from, things like I remember learning how to tell time on the old analog clocks with the big hand and the little hand. And I remember when, when my mother would ask me, what time is it? And I would say, well, the big hand is on the 12 and the little hand is on the 5. And then she knew what time it was. But I didn't. I was just looking at the hands and I didn't understand how to tell time. And then I learned how to do it. I don't remember that with reading. I don't remember that crossover from I can't read to I can. I remember getting better at reading. I remember learning new words and learning new sounds and having my reading experience grow. But I really don't remember a time when I didn't read. And then what got me hooked on reading, what book or what series? The one that I think about is a series of books by Thornton W. Burgess, who I don't hear anybody talking about anymore. He wrote a series of nature, animal-inspired books. He started with Old Mother West Wind, which came out in 1910, and he wrote until his death in 1965. But I remember my grandmother had at least the book, The Adventures of Jimmy Skunk, and I remember reading it, and I think she had The Adventures of Reddy Fox. I'm not sure about that, but from there, I started with Jimmy Skunk, and then I started reading everything that was in the library. So the stories of Johnny Chuck and who else was in that series? Well, there was Old Granny Fox, there was Old Man Coyote, there was Grandfather Frog, there was Uncle Billy Possum, Old Mother West Wind and her little breezes. It was a fun series. It was a lot of the same characters throughout the book, but each book told from a different animal's perspective. And especially looking at I remember thinking about the predator-prey mentality that he would show. So he would tell a story from Johnny Chuck's point of view about being chased by Reddy Fox. And then he would tell a similar story of Reddy Fox chasing Johnny Chuck. And you could feel on both sides what that feeling about the perspectives changing based on who you are was fascinating to me even as a kid. One of these days I'm going to do those one of those 10 books that made me videos, but not today. I'm going to stop with the Thornton W. Burgess series. Anybody read those? Anybody but me? Just curious. Why do you love reading? Reading makes me think. Reading, even the things that are just more purely entertainment. I think about those stories. I was just talking about these stories I read literally 50 years ago about Jimmy Skunk and Reddy Fox and Uncle Billy Possum. And I still remember the story. I may not remember all the details. Well, I don't. But I remember the stories and I remember how they made me feel. And whether that's through fiction, whether that's through nonfiction, through history and biography and science and nature and whatever else, all those things, you learn something. Sometimes you reject ideas. I know I've read, in my corporate life, I've read plenty of business books. I haven't found many of them to be very helpful. And a lot of people do. And that's how it is. But you learn by reading, you reflect on it, you say, I like this, I don't like this, I'm going to try to build more of this into my life, I never want to do this. And the stories that you hear, some really resonate, and you just think back to some of the amazing stories and characters, and they live with you forever. Joe Leaphorn for example, from Tony Hillerman's novels, um, will always live on in my head. I remember a lot of his actual adventures, but I also just remember the character, and that's really fascinating to me and impressive. Next question, where do I read? These days, I read more audiobooks than physical books. I've done that for a long time. I have, through the bulk of my professional career, had a good-sized commute, at least 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes a little longer each way. And so I started, back in the days when you actually got books on cassette and borrow those from the library and listen to books on cassette and then CDs. And now, of course, with all the different ways that you can listen to audiobooks through libraries and apps like Libby, and of course downloading through Audible and those kinds of whatever it is. There are so many ways to get books on audio. And so when I'm driving, when I'm getting ready in the morning, when I'm doing chores, I often have a book on, my earbuds in and a book playing. I do read physical books some, but the vast majority of what I read is on audio. And sometimes I'm just sitting in a chair, relaxing, letting the words flow through my head. And I do like audiobooks in that most of these players have a go back 30 seconds button. And I do that, I miss something, and I just go back and listen to it again. I'm always fascinated when I go back and I miss the same thing that I missed the first time. So it's not that I was distracted, it's something in the book that either pulled me out of the story or made me think about something else. Audiobooks are it's a different way to read. It activates different parts of the brain, and I really enjoy it. What else do we have here? What kind of books do you read? I've read so many. I kind of do deep dives over the course of my life. I have just moved in a lot of different directions at different parts of my life. I always come back to the American West. I did graduate work in American history, really focusing on the American West and even more specifically the Pacific Northwest. And so I read a lot of history, and I've read a lot of literature about the West, about the Pacific Northwest, and that's something that I always come back to. I've read a lot of detective and crime fiction, and I really love the Western detectives. I was mentioning Tony Hillerman earlier, also Craig Johnson's character Walt Longmire's, C.J. Box. There are so many others. Some of James Lee Burke's characters, some of those stories take place in the West. Some characters are based in the West, and even Dave Robichaux, who's from New Orleans, travels to Montana every once in a while. Black Cherry Blues is a great book. And I've read a lot of other mystery and crime. I love, Dash Hammett and Philip Marlowe. Why can't I think of his name? Raymond Chandler. There we go. There's the author. There we go. Make myself laugh. I love those classics. I read a lot of Agatha Christie when I was younger. I also read a lot of science fiction, some fantasy, but a lot of science fiction, particularly as a kid, and it's something that I've always gone back to. Philip K. Dick, William Gibson, just some authors in that line. I really have enjoyed. Bruce Sterling, it's another one. Let's see. Um, and then I've read a lot of nonfiction, a lot of history, a lot of nature writing, a lot of natural history, um, and books from all over the world. Even though I do tend to come back to American literature and focus on the American West, I've read literature from all over the world, not just the U.S. and England, but I have done some deep dives into Scottish literature. Um, I've read literature from Africa and Asia and South America and, you know, all the continents. Books that take place in Antarctica. I read a lot of different things, but right now I'm kind of focused again at this point in my life, refocused on the American West, although that will lead in many, many, many different directions. And the last question on my list here is, what does my book collection look like? This is pretty much it right behind me. I am tired of having a lot of physical media that I own and that I have to take care of. Ebooks are great. Audiobooks are great, but those are stored in the proverbial cloud, and I don't have to take care of them. Yeah, do I own them? Do I not? I don't know. I use libraries. I borrow things and use the library e-readers and e-listeners, audiobook players. I don't know what those are called. But I am very particular these days about what books I purchase and what books I actually store in my collection, and because I want to take care of them. And so I really have made it a very small, right now, very focused collection, mostly American West with a little bit of Scotland up here, American West here and behind me. I don't know how to do that, and these coffee table books over here. Yeah, I don't want to own physical things much anymore. It's just where I am. So my book collection is very tightly monitored and controlled by me, very heavily culled with, as I get better copies of books that I love, I keep those. Sometimes I have multiple copies. I don't know how many copies of Treasure Island are up here. I don't know how many copies of Kidnapped, more than one. And I don't have any problem with that. Multiple copies of Frank Norris's work and Willa Cather's work, and no problem with that. But I just really am limiting what I collect. So there it is. Whether this was the BookTube Newbie tag or just a BookTube Newbie conversation, it kind of gives you at least the beginnings of an inkling into what I'm doing here on BookTube. It does seem like a lot of these newbie tags have a question like, who are your favorite booktubers, or who inspired you? And I have been watching BookTube for so long, and kind of migrating, navigating, changing who I subscribe to and who I watch consistently. And I really feel like I found the corner of BookTube where I belong. My favorite booktuber is you. You who are watching this right now, you booktubers who are watching this right now, you are my favorite. I mean that. Those of you who do not have a BookTube channel, you are my favorite future booktubers. I mean that. Thank you so much for watching today. Feel free to comment below if you'd like to. If you want to have a conversation in the comments, we can do that. If If you just want to enjoy it, we can do that. It all works for me. I'm just happy to be here. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for your support. And until next time, my name is Greg. This is Ghost Readers in the Sky. Keep on reading.